Welcome to For the Love of Books, a podcast by North Lanarkshire Libraries. Hi everyone, welcome back to the North Lanarkshire Libraries podcast For the Love of Books. My name is Chris Wilson, the E-Services Librarian, and today's episode of the podcast is going to be all about Book Week Scotland, which is coming up very soon from the 14th to the 20th of November. And I thought we'd tell you a little bit about our plans for the event. And first up, we're going to have Drew Feeney, the librarian from Airdrie, to tell us a little bit about some of the events that's happening there. Next up, I'll tell you a little bit more about some of the other events that we've got happening, and then after that we have got Thomas from Coatbridge Library who's going to tell us a little bit about an event that he is doing, because he has got an alter ego as a writer as well as being a librarian as well. And then we'll end the podcast with some exclusive information about some events that we are just about to announce as well, so stay tuned and listen up for them. But first up, here is Drew to tell you a little bit more about the event at Airdrie Library. So Drew, welcome back to the podcast, and thank you for coming to talk to us a little bit about some of the Book Week Scotland events you've got happening at Airdrie Library. And you guys have got not one but two authors coming during Book Week Scotland, is that right?
Hi Chris, yeah, brilliant to be back, and yes, really excited about Book Week Scotland. Very close now, lots happening across the service, but from our perspective in Airdrie area, two very, very interesting and wonderful Scottish authors coming to visit us, which we're delighted about. So we have Alicia Suave, who's a debut author, who is receiving a lot of praise and a lot of coverage at the moment for her first book, and we also have Karen Campbell coming to visit us in Airdrie, who is well known for her crime novels, but the book she's coming to talk about is something a little bit different for her, but again very much in keeping with Book Week Scotland, and of course the Scottish Year of Stories that we're coming to an end to now as well. So very excited about both events and looking forward to them.
Fantastic. And well, we have a wee kind of look at the Alicia Suave one first. She's a Lanarkshire writer, isn't she? And the event is building up the kind of showcase of local talent that we've had in our libraries in kind of recent years as well, because we've had quite a lot of local writers who have become quite successful recently. So this is another one that's coming and kind of talking to us about our book, isn't it?
Yeah, that's a really good point actually. In recent years we've seen lots of local Lanarkshire authors sort of hit the big time almost, where I'm thinking of the likes of Graham Armstrong and David Keenan and people like that. And Alicia is just the latest from this long line of Lanarkshire authors hitting stardom. So our debut novel is called Ginger and Me, and it's set in and around Lanarkshire as well. I think over in the Uddingston kind of area, so just outside of North Lanarkshire. Alicia herself lives locally too still, so it's something that we're really always looking to support our local authors, but particularly at this time when so many of them are doing so well nationally and internationally. So it's a real golden age for Lanarkshire authors at the moment, and Alicia is certainly part of that.
And Airdrie Library seems to be kind of the place to go to catch them as well, because you have had David Keenan in the past, you've had Graham Armstrong as well, so it's a good. It seems to be a good place for authors to head to before they kind of really kind of hit the heights of stardom that they've been getting to recently.
Absolutely, it's funny that when you mention that, and of course Len Penny visited us recently as well during National Poetry Day, and another kind of up and coming Lanarkshire originating author and poet. So there must be something in the water at Airdrie. I'm not going to sort of disabuse anybody of that notion, because Airdrie, as we all know, is a very special place, and Airdrie Library in particular. So we are always keen, as we all are throughout the service, to support our local authors. So it's just so great that so many of them seem to be from our neck of the woods.
Yeah. And as you say, our novel Ginger and Me is our debut novel, and it is set in Uddingston. And do you think that will help the library members connect to it, knowing that kind of local connection? Kind of they'll know the area and things like that. They'll maybe they'll kind of be able to set the scene a little bit more in their head and things.
Yeah, absolutely. That's always a thing, isn't it? When there's a local connection, you're off to a flyer before you even start the book, that you're going to know the places and very roughly the sort of characters that you might meet within that. I think this debut novel in particular is something where a sense of place is very strong, and being a local author, writing about your local hometown or location is something that's very, very kind of evocative and something that readers time and time again really latch onto. So yeah, I think it's really important. That particularly somewhere like Lanarkshire, where we have such a strong sense of place, that
Yeah.
that really does connect with our readers and with our writers, obviously, as well.
Yeah, I think with that, I think that whenever it's a local writer writing about their kind of local area, it does help to add kind of authenticity to the kind of scenes and stories. I whenever I read the Graham Armstrong book, for example, I could picture the places and the characters. We all knew somebody who was in like one of the characters in those stories and things like that from our childhood. And things, and so I think it does kind of help to kind of really kind of bring it to life a lot more whenever you kind of have that kind of local insight into how it kind of set and things like that and stuff. And and one other part that Alyssa has been quoted saying in the past is how important it was for her to have the leading lady in the story as a working class woman, leading character as a working class woman. It does really kind of helps the story stand out a little bit, isn't it? It's not really kind of the sort of more sort of normal character to have as a lead character.
Yeah, I think that's again a really good point. We part of this renaissance in local writing that we're talking about is that it represents real people, and that it represents perhaps areas of our communities that have been underrepresented and certainly in literature up until now. Particularly, I think, with working class women. There's the wonderful novel from Kirsten Innes of last year or the year before, Scabby Queen, was a similar sort of thing, where it really put it to the forefront of the novel, the working class characters and the background and the challenges that are faced. I think of also Shuggie Bain as well, Douglas Stewart's kind of wonderful novel of last year. It's the same sort of thing. So Alicia has mentioned that having a working class woman at the centre of the story was important to her, and I completely agree, because it just shines another light on areas of our communities and areas of our own locations and towns and the people that we see and work with that we haven't really seen in literature before, and that can never be a bad thing. That can never be a bad thing for people to have a voice and people to recognise themselves in the books that they read.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it'll be an absolutely fantastic event, and it will be on Tuesday the 15th of November at 2 p.m. at Airdrie Library, so that'll be a fantastic event for anyone to come along to.
Yes, indeed.
And the Karen Campbell event is a look back at one of our older books rather than our current book. This Is Where I Am. Is that that's right?
Yeah.
That's the one we're looking at, isn't it?
Yeah.
So what was the thinking behind kind of looking at that? So as the story for the event?
I think Karen, as I said earlier, Karen is originally became famous for her crime fiction as a former kind of member of the police service. She wrote that with a real insight and a real, a real keen eye for detail. But this book, This Is Where I Am, is more set within the refugee community within Glasgow, and it's a more sort of tender tale of that particular community and the people that support them, and how they can learn from each other, and how they can really open the other's eyes to seeing things in a completely different way. So it's a story that's really important. It's a story that affects us all, and it's a story that particularly affects us in Lanarkshire here as we welcome new members to our communities from all over the world. So we're delighted that Karen's coming to speak about this book in particular. Also because, as we were saying, it's the year of stories, the Scottish year of stories this year, coming to an end now. And it's those are stories that deserve to be told, and deserve to be told throughout our communities, because again, giving voice to all members of our communities now. So I'm delighted, and we're delighted that Karen's doing this particular book, because it has such resonance for us, for where we all are, and for where all our new community members are. So it's a wonderful opportunity to come and hear something a little bit different that you might not have kind of considered or thought about or read before.
Yeah, and it'd be interesting to kind of see what Karen Campbell's crime fiction fans kind of make of the kind of sort of change in maybe tone and genre and things like that for this book. And it's like I say that they do fit very well with the Book Week Scotland theme of Scottish stories this year. So, and they give they're two very different events in terms of stories, but also very well fit into that kind of wide variety of the kind of things that can happen on a kind of local basis in Scotland.
Yeah, absolutely, and absolutely agree. It's just showing all facets of our country's current story. It's showing all facets of our locality's current story, and where we are in North Lanarkshire, that we're open to new ideas and new stories and new voices and new perspectives. So we're very, very keen that as a service that those sorts of events would happen this year, and we're delighted particularly that a couple of them at least are taking place in Airdrie Library. So very much looking forward to it. Very much looking forward to both events.
Yeah. And one of the other great things as well with the Karen Campbell event is it's going to be on a Saturday. It's going to be on Saturday the 19th of November at 2 p.m. And we don't normally do Saturday author events that often. So this is a chance for anyone who maybe can't come along to a weekday event to come along to an event as well in the library and see a really top author in the local library as well, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. That was key in our thinking, was particularly was to offer the opportunity for as many people as possible to come to our events this year in person, of course, after a couple of years when they were digital only. So yeah, a Saturday, not something that we've done that often in the past, but an excellent and an ideal opportunity for as many people as they can to come along to Airdrie for Karen. Alicia's on a Tuesday afternoon, so again, another great opportunity to come along if you're available at that point to see high quality literature in your local setting, discussing local issues, but also issues that affect us all. So very much looking forward to it, and hopefully as many people as possible will be able to come and join us.
And how can people book to come along to the events if they fancy coming along to see them?
No problem. There's lots of different ways. You can check out our website with full booking details, www.cultureandl.co.uk, where we have a dedicated Book Week Scotland page listing all our events. But for these two events particularly, you can give Airdrie Library a call. Our booking is open from today. Our number, I'll plug it, why not, is 01236 758 070. Give us a call. Places are available now and are free, which is crucial that we should say, free and open to everyone. So we very much encourage everyone to come along and to take part in any of our events, but particularly the ones that we're talking about in Airdrie over the next Book Week Scotland period.
Fantastic. It sounds as if it's going to be two fantastic events and a great part of our Book Week Scotland calendar for this year. And I really hope they go well for you, Drew. So, and I hope everyone that goes along to the events, I hope they enjoy it as well.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. No problem at all. Looking forward to it.
Fantastic. So I think you'll agree that anyone coming along to those events at Airdrie Library will have a fantastic time. They sound like great events and they are definitely worth coming along to. The next event I thought I would tell you a little bit about is a visit from Kirkland Saccone to the Lantern House in Cumbernauld Theatre. And the event is ticketed, but you can get that ticket for free from Cumbernauld Library, either in person or by calling them on 01236 632 702. And Kirkland has written a new book called Sadie Call the Polis, and it's a new novel from him. His previous book was Happiness is Wasted on Me, which was set in Cumbernauld itself. Sadie Call the Polis, though, is an offbeat story about a Scottish family seen through the eyes of Sadie Relish, and whose journey from childhood to adulthood is rendered in crushing detail. It's a disastrous first date, late nights at the bus stops and running away from home, the hangovers, her first and last job, COVID, it's all in there. The drama, all of the lot is in there. And Kirkland is a fantastic performer. You definitely worth catching. He will be a fantastic event to come along to and see. So definitely come along to that. And like I said, you do need to book a ticket for that. The event is on Monday, the 14th of November at 7 p.m. at the Cafe or Bistro at Lantern House, Cumbernauld Theatre. But the tickets are available from Cumbernauld Library, so do pick one up from there. And the tickets are free, so definitely get a hold of one of them before they are all gone. And next up, we have got Thomas, the librarian from Coatbridge Library, to tell us a little bit about a special event that he's got happening at Wishaw Library during Book Week Scotland. So, Thomas, thank you for joining me on the podcast to tell us a little bit about the Book Week Scotland event that you are doing. So you're taking on your non-librarian alter ego for this one, and because some people might not realise that you actually are an author yourself and have written in lots and lots of books and also translated quite a lot of books to Scots as well. So not many people know that. Do you want to tell us a little bit about what event you're going to do for us during Book Week Scotland?
Aye, sure, Chris, and thanks so much for having me on. You're right, I've been writing for a long time, and I write mainly in the Scots language. I've translated, my most recent books have mostly been translations into Scots. The English, I've translated Diary of a Wimpy Kid into Scots, and a series of unfortunate events into Scots. And my next book, which is coming out at the end of this month, in which I'm doing a Book Week Scotland event at Wishaw Library about, is Animal Farm, or Animal Ferm, rather, the Scots translation of George Orwell's classic book about revolution on a farm. So that's what I'm going to be talking about on the 15th November in the evening at Wishaw Library.
Fantastic. And I mean, translating such an acclaimed book, that must have been quite a nerve-wracking thing to take on, because everybody knows Animal Farm. Obviously, George Orwell is a hugely well-known author. I think most people would be able to name George Orwell and Animal Farm as a book, even if they're not a reader. So it must be quite a nerve-wracking thing to take on and to try and kind of do.
Well, absolutely is, aye, and because George Orwell is a hero of mine, he's a hero of virtually everybody who writes, and obviously he's one of the writers who hasn't stopped being relevant. He's become more relevant over the years, and I seem to remember, like, in the last couple of years, because of our political moment, because of various other things that were going on, 1984 and Animal Farm were suddenly more popular than they've been in a long, long time. So it's kind of nerve-wracking to try and emulate a voice like Orwell's, to try and do justice to writing that is as sublime as Orwell's. And I'm not going to pretend that I think I've done it. I hope I have. I'm not going to pretend, though. That'll be for the folk who read the book to judge. But it's certainly something that I approached with caution, and that I'm really looking forward to people being able to see and read and tell me if they think I've done a good job or not so good a job of.
Fantastic. And I think it's a fantastic opportunity for the Scots language to have a real classic novel kind of brought into it and available to people, and that's a great thing. So how did the opportunity come about to do that? And I mean, how does the kind of idea of it being translated into Scots come about? Was that your idea, or was it a publisher approached you to kind of put it together, or how does that come about?
It was, well, what it was obviously when you're translating books from any language into Scots, then you need the permission of the original publisher and the original writer and so on and so forth. And that can be logistically tricky as well as financially. It can be expensive to get that permission. George Orwell, as you probably know, just went out of copyright in the last couple of years, which makes it a lot easier to do editions of his work, to do translations of his work. So Lewis Press, who are the publishers of the book, approached me and said, "Oh, what do you think? Do you want to have a go at doing 1984 in Scots?" And I know I've said 1984 there, that's no mistake. And I said, aye, I mean, I'd love to, but think it'd be better to start off a wee bit less on, because 1984 is a bigger book. It's a more complicated book. I think it'll be a really interesting thing to try, and we're hoping to try it eventually. But I said to begin with, like, think Animal Farm's the more accessible and the better bet of the two. So Lewis Press were quite happy with that, and we cracked on with it. I wasn't totally sure to begin with, to be honest with you, if it was going to work, because you read Orwell and just think, can this be replicated in any language, Scots or anything else? Can anybody hope to reach the level of George Orwell in any other medium? So I was worried about it. And I'm still worried about it. But it is something that we don't, like you said a wee minute ago. We don't have that many books in Scots, and it's something that's relatively new, and certainly Scots translation. Since maybe about 2002, we've had loads of kids' books translated into Scots. We've had Roald Dahl, and we've had Harry Potter, and I've done a couple myself, and Room on the Broom and the Gruffalo. So we're actually kind of well catered for there, but nobody's really dipped a toe into books for adults in Scots, adult translations in Scots. So this is new territory for me and for my publisher. So it's going to be interesting to see how it pans out. But I think it's a really exciting thing to be happening, and hopefully it'll be the start of something, not a renaissance, but it'll be the start of becoming normal for adult novels to be published in Scots.
Yeah, and so if this one goes well, is there a chance that you might do 1984 as well? Because I think that I love 1984. I think it's a fantastic book, and it would be very interesting to see it translated into Scots as well.
I've been, believe it or not, I'm actually kind of half working on it now. I'm not wanting to get too ahead of myself because I want to see how this goes, and so do my publishers. But I mean, that 1984 would be brilliant because, quite apart from anything else, it's about language. And so is Animal Farm, really. But 1984 is about language, so that's really something you could get to grips with and get your teeth into when you're writing about Scots. It's about the destruction of language, 1984, and what's happened to Scots isn't that different to what happens to English in 1984 when it gets replaced by this watered down newspeak. So I'm working on it. It'll take a bit longer than Animal Farm did, and who knows, if nobody buys Animal Farm, then maybe it'll never happen. But I'm hopeful.
So that a little bit of a possible exclusive there for the podcast.
You heard it here first.
So, I mean, obviously there must be, I can only imagine there must be a lot of work goes into putting together a translation of a piece of work, especially one as well known as Animal Farm. It must be quite satisfying though once it's finally there and it's finally kind of put together and you can bring it out to people and stuff. So it must be quite good to reach that point.
Oh, it's brilliant, Chris. I mean, I was working on Animal Farm. A lot of the work I did on Animal Farm was over the course of the pandemic. So at that point, obviously things were up in the air. Nobody knew how much of a publishing industry was going to be left after the pandemic. There's loads of really gloomy predictions about what was going to happen to publishing and to libraries and to books and to writing after the pandemic. So at the time that I was translating, you just think, well, is this ever going to see the light of day? Is there going to be such a thing as bookshops after? It sounds daft now, but at the time it just seemed like anything could happen.
Yeah.
So I mean, after all that, it's brilliant to finally got to a place where, in the Scots language books in particular, obviously you're never totally sure. Is there going to be an audience for it? Is there going to be a publisher who's willing to take it on? There's loads of things that happen to stop a Scots language book becoming a reality, and I'm delighted that this is about to become a reality. It's certainly something I couldn't have seen myself doing a couple of years ago, and it's brilliant to see that it's happened. It's done. It's nearly there.
But I know you say that it can be quite difficult to get a Scots language book out there, but I do think there is a bit of a kind of momentum behind the Scots language books come out. I mean, obviously this one's coming out, and there has been some really successful ones come out in the not too distant past. I'm thinking Duck Feet and The Young Team, for example, really kind of successful books, and really quite critically acclaimed. There does seem to be a bit of a momentum behind kind of that the Scots language being published now, isn't there?
Absolutely, I think there's a wee bit of a Scots language renaissance going on right now, and Duck Feet and The Young Team are really good examples of books that are in Scots but haven't been limited to Scots readerships. They're books that have broken out of that wee niche and have become mainstream successes. And there's been quite a few books like Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, the Scots translation of Harry Potter. It was selling worldwide. People were going crazy for it, whether they were native Scots speakers or no. Last week, I don't know if you'll know, but the Arthur C. Clarke Award, which is the top science fiction award in the UK, was won by, of all things, it was won by a sci-fi verse novel in Scots called Deep Wheel Arcadia by Harry Josephine Giles. And that's an award that's been won by like The Handmaid's Tale. That is a top award, and it's been won by a novel that's in verse and in Scots. It's incredible. So and obviously we ourselves in North Lanarkshire Library, we've had Anne Donovan here recently, we've had Len Penny here recently. These are people who have been huge instigators of the the Renaissance in Scots. So there's loads going on. It's a really exciting time to be involved in Scots language and Scots language publishing, and that's why I'm really looking forward to this book coming out, because it's noticed in the past a Scots book would come out and it'd come out into a vacuum. There'd be nothing else happening, and but now you're coming out. There's a community out there. There's interest, and there's established literary tradition. So it's brilliant. It's really exciting. And for those of us that have been running long enough, and not everybody has, like obviously, your younger writers don't remember anything before this, but people like your age and my age, Chris, we remember when there weren't any Scots books for kids. We remember when Scots wasn't quite so easy, relatively easy to sell as it is now. So it's brilliant to see, and long may it continue.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a bit of an uptake in interest in it for sure, and you see that with the popularity of some of the books that come out, and I think that kind of move to then start translating really kind of well-known classic books to Scots as well will only really enhance that and make it and improve that and really kind of heighten the appetite for more as well. So it's going to be an exciting time, and hopefully the event goes really, really well for you, Thomas, and also we hope that lots of folk come along as well. It's going to be on Tuesday the 15th of November at Wishaw Library, and how can people book to come along to that event, Thomas?
The same way they can book for all your Book Week Scotland events this coming month, Chris, which is, if you want to see what there is, obviously you check our website online and you phone up or visit the library in question to book a place at an event. So in my case, if you want to come and see me at Wishaw Library, give the folks at Wishaw Library a phone, or just pop in next time you're passing by and let them know.
Fantastic. And we hope to see everybody there and enjoy some more Scots language. And thank you for telling us a bit more about it, Thomas.
Thanks very much, Chris.
Hopefully you'll agree that Thomas's event sounds fantastic. It's a great opportunity for you to come along and find out a little bit more about Animal Farm, the translation of the classic Orwell novel Animal Farm. And we've also got a couple of events to reveal as kind of exclusives. They're hot off the press. They have just been confirmed, and we have got some great news for some crime fans out there. We have got Claire Askew coming to Coatbridge Library on Friday the 18th of November at 2 p.m. Claire's latest D.I. Birch novel came out earlier this year called A Matter of Time, and everyone who has enjoyed that series so far will want to come along to that event, and it's sure to be fantastic. And the other one is Douglas Skelton will be visiting Motherwell Library, and Douglas is known for his Glasgow crime fiction usually, but his new novel, An Honourable Thief, is taking you back in time to be a historical crime fiction. You'll be back in 1715, and he has got a new lead character, Jonas Flint, to be the main character in those books. So it is a bit of a new venture for Douglas, and it is sure to be an interesting read for sure. So do check those events out as well. Douglas's event will be at Motherwell on Wednesday the 16th of November at 7 p.m. So it's definitely both worth coming along to. They are free events, and you can book directly with the library. And you can find out more information about all of the events that we've got for Book Week Scotland by visiting culturenl.co.uk/Book Week Scotland, and you will find out all about all the plans. And we hope to see you guys at some of the events. And the events are only made by the audience coming along, so we hope you come along and enjoy them. If you've enjoyed this podcast, do leave us a little bit of feedback using the hashtag FLB podcast, or by dropping us an email at librarypodcast@northland.gov.uk. That's all for us for now, guys. We will be back again soon with another episode, but until then, it's bye for now. Bye.